how's the shadow people? Have you been? How are they?
The true question.
Very little. I think I saw one shadow person very briefly a couple of months ago. So my office, the door is kind of right over here, just off camera. And I was just sitting here doing my thing, and I saw a humanoid kind of shadow walk by. I looked at it, and I looked down at the dog, and the dog didn't look. And I was like, well, that's probably not real. And I kind of went back to my editing.
That's not too bad.
No,
Man,
it's not. It's not.
Let's hope that dog hasn't gotten used to the intruder living in your home.
No, I've always had to rely on pets for a little gauge of reality. If you hear a weird noise or see a weird thing, is the dog interested in it? If the dog's not interested, it's probably all up here.
You've got a whole canary in the coal mine thing going on for your hallucinations.
Yeah, pretty much. Those are extremely infrequent as an adult. As a kid and a teenager, not so much. As an adult, very managed.
Yeah, mine are very infrequent. I had none. And then, you know, we're hoping that it stays that way, but you never know.
Dude, this is just the other night. Like, I had just I watch a lot of like campy, shitty horror movies late at night. I enjoy them. I like them. But like, you still, like, if there's a ghoulish face or something, it might stick out to you. And like, I don't really get spooked too much. It just holds my attention. And I was going to bed, and like, I was looking at, you know, those like side, like taller windows that are to the side of your door that you like kind of see through. I was walking down my hall, and I looked, and I saw like an angle off of it that looked like the same ghoulish face of that like monster from the movie. And I was like, I like didn't respond, but I felt my heart rate go like pop, 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 pop. And then I like looked a little closer, and it was like, oh, that's the light playing tricks. And then I went to bed. I can't imagine spending the rest of the night with what you did, where you're like, it's probably not a demon. Probably, it's almost certainly not a demon. Like,
so I think this is a thing that men do and women don't do when they see something scary at night, because I've always do the same thing, and I don't know why. When I see something that I don't know what it is in like the dark, I freeze and I stare.
I don't want to let whatever it is know that I'm afraid.
Yes, and but what it really is I'm computing in my mind. I'm like, my mind is like taking that smudgy figure I see and like, you know, like fucking moving it around,
CSI,
and transposing it, trying to figure out like coat rack. Yep, it's a hoodie on a chair. Okay, hoodie on a chair with a demon mask next to it. That's not my mask. Oh no. You know, you gotta figure that out, right? Like real quick. I've noticed when my girlfriend would see something scary, it's always and run. Like I think it's the difference between fight or flight. Not that I'm down to do combat with a demon. I want to run too, but it's just not my first inclination. I'm always just like, you know how a dog will do that like instinctive like pointer thing where they all stick their tails out, and like I think there's something like that with us too. I think maybe so. I hate
hunting instinct, investigation, evolutionarily just built in. It defaults to most men. Also a desire to know what the fuck is going on, because if something is actually wrong, it would be best to know what is actually wrong instead of I'll just go to bed and not think about it.
I saw this really cool thing on YouTube, and they were what they did was they take these blurred images of animals and they show them to people, and at first it's so blurred it's just a jumble of nonsense, and eventually it's a clear picture of what's being shown. And on frame 3, people can identify the snake, because we've our ancestors, the primates that we evolved from, the simians, were so keyed into like evolving the ability to pick out snakes in their environment. They were such a problem, and they said that the eyesight in Asian and African simians was especially acute, because those are the ones that did evolve alongside snakes. Whereas the primates from, I can't remember the other region that they pointed out, but like those guys didn't have any snakes. Oh, it was those little fucking cute ass monkeys on like in New Zealand or somewhere like that. They're like, these guys can't see for shit because they don't need to. but like on
is it the like lemurs of Madagascar,
something like that. But they show the viewer, like in the video, they've got these frames, and it's like, dude, I didn't know that was a bird until like frame 8. On frame 3, I'm like you can see like the coil and like that threatening pose. It's pretty cool.
I wonder if it can't beat a human.
Oh, and then they did these brain scans of
fighter pilots, bombers.
Then they did, then they had like
you got me, Superman.
0 for 3. Strike. Just too high IQ. Yeah, that's definitely true. Like, I would imagine spiders. Did they do a spider part of that test, Kyle?
No,
because snakes and spiders are two things that like you could easily step on an accident back when like we were in ancient times, prior to ancient, like we're cavemen with barely any communication.
Monkeys in the trees.
Yeah, monkeys in the trees. They scream about snakes. They scream about birds of prey too, because they're they're smaller, like macaques or whatever. Macaque, is that what those are? Those little tiny African macaque monkeys. But yeah, they can get like scooped up by birds, and so they have like different phrases and sounds, whether they're like "hey, snake" or like "bird." Like they make different chirps based on that, which is really cool. Tell us about another time the shadow people were.
Oh, good. Okay, that's more
light.
fun.
That's
okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. I saw a glowing
and did they always
light
look
one
the
time,
same, or did?
Well, I've seen the
Kyle,
old
you said
hag,
you've
not
seen
the
a glowing
Hat
light,
Man.
too.
Excuse me?
Glowing lights.
Oh, you've never
Orbs.
seen that? Yeah. Wait, you just said Hat Man. So like
my wife
I got
saw
into
Hat
reading
Man.
about does she abuse Benadryl?
No, none of us do. No Ambien, no Benadryl, none of that kind of stuff. Or a fun one. I used to live on a property that was formerly owned by a cult, and it was really weird. And it was kind of haunted-y. So some of my Spanish in-laws thought it'd be a great idea to have an exorcism. So I got to watch that when I was a little kid, which was bizarre. Short version, we bought a house way out in the middle of nowhere in Texas. It bedded like 18, but mostly in weird bunk beds that were built into the attic. And it was very fish, like greenhouse, very self-sustaining. And the people that lived there all of a sudden moved like overnight and sold it like dirt cheap.
This is a lot to ingest,
dude. Who are you?
Huh? I'm a lot of people and a lot of things.
You were growing up in fucking Waco or something like
yeah.
Like,
it's a lot more remote than Waco, but yeah.
Damn.
The town had 40 people.
Oh, David Koresh was terrified of our compound. We kicked him out for his simpleton views. He wasn't extreme enough for us.
The house was very weird. There was always weird noises, always weird shit going on. You could never sleep because something would go bump in the night. Nothing like super horrifying or shadow people or whatever, but it fucked with everybody in the house. Mostly would come from my brother's room, which was weird because we thought he was getting up in the night. So we would make him sleep downstairs and it would still happen. Or if he slept up there, he said he would never hear anything, but downstairs sounded like a nightmare. And it happened once when one of my in-laws was at the house and she happened to be a devout Spanish Catholic, and it freaked her right properly the fuck out. And she came back with some of her friends. I don't think they were priests. And they started putting oils on the walls and crosses and "out with you demons," and then shit in Spanish that I couldn't understand, and consecrating and cursing and blessing. And I'd seen scary movies growing up. So I was like, oh, this is really cool. I want to see this. I've never seen an exorcism or a blessing or a demon warding, whatever it is that they're doing, because I don't speak Spanish. I don't know. And I was very pissed off because I was not allowed to, I was the only person not allowed to witness the exorcism because I was the only person in the house that was unbaptized. And they were all afraid that the ghost or whatever would go into me. So I had to go way on the other side of the property while they banished evil spirits or whatever. And the short version is it didn't do a goddamn thing. All the spooky stuff kept happening.
So
yeah, of course, because
Jesus
it's all
Christ.
fake. And
Woody, are you baptized?
Yeah, I believe these people buy NFTs.
Drifter, you're
Yeah,
not
probably.
baptized. You're not baptized?
Me?
Yeah.
I am now.
I'm the only one. Huh.
I guess I don't think I'm as remotely
You've never
religious as
been
I used to be, so I
baptized?
don't know if that counts, but I did get baptized, yes.
Dude,
I'm
you're
not-
going to hell so hard, man.
I don't know why, but like we used to do that thing.
Dude, I
don't
can't
know.
wait. Me and Woody gonna be fucking high-fiving, riding a tandem bike up in heaven.
Oh God, on a cloud somehow. Taylor, I'm not getting any traction.
Can I just?
I'll hit you guys with a less crazy one, more of a funny one. It was when I was like 16, 17 years old. I had moved away from that bad place to a, we'll say, different place in Mississippi. I lived in a very small house. We were not rich people. My dad made like $4,000 a year, and there was a little bit of subsistence hunting kind of stuff going on. And I was big into video games. I'd play.
Hold on.
Yeah.
$4,000 a year.
Forget that, Taylor. Could you just say the words that you hunted for your own food?
A little bit. It wasn't anything crazy. You catch fish from the river, you shoot a deer here and there. If a redneck has something they want a trophy and not the meat, I'll take it.
This is awesome.
Yeah, so stuff like that. My wife would eat raccoons and stuff and possums and whatever the fuck. They're really chewy and gamey, but we did a lot of that.
Did we kill them or find them by the roadside?
You're not supposed to
Kill them. I just pop them, shoot them with the 22. But the point is, we lived kind of broke as a really small little house. And I lived in a really small little room. We didn't have any heat or air. So whatever it was outside, it just was inside. And I had to deal with it. But I would sit there on my little TV and I'd play video games. And I was big into video games. One night I go to bed, everything's normal. And I hear this giant fucking crash and slam and like glass breaking. And the only thing I can think is that my brand new fan that I got installed, by the way, I lived like 3 years with no fan in the summer. I was super happy to have my fan.
That blows.
I thought the fan had fallen down because we used the cheapest repairman possible. And I thought, fuck, I'm gonna have to spend all summer with no fan. So I get up and go kind of like around the walls of my room to avoid stepping on glass and turn on the light. And everything is fine. Everything is totally fine and normal. And I'm like, have I lost my mind? And then I look over to my little desk where I would do my homework. And there's a giant pile of old video games. And when I say old, I mean 1980s old, like the Ghostbusters game and Super Mario Duck Hunt, the original boxes in pretty good conditions. And what was weird about this is these were things that I had owned eons ago, right? Desk was clean when I went to bed. These are things that I had not seen in 10 plus years at that point. When you give something to a 3-year-old in 1989, it tends to get torn up. I remember moving and throwing them away. And then suddenly in the middle of the fucking night, for no reason, there's a whole pile of vintage games just sitting on my desk. You know, there's Drifter, no explanation, no nothing.
You know, Drifter, I find you to be a charming and talented man. I really enjoy it when you're on. I look forward to it because
there's a but though.
But when you talk about things like this, I think that, well, I hope that everyone's ears are perking up and hearing these things and look, I have a side of me that thinks that there's a chance that you are haunted by demons. I am not made that a zero-sum thing. Okay, you may be haunted by demons. I want you to do paranormal videos where you like film yourself, like do like set up one of those night vision cameras by your bed, dude, and like if anything ever happens and you could string this together, I'd be a viewer because you creep me out by telling me this stuff the same way. What's our friend who came out a while back who does the scary stories? Muted,
Taylor.
I'm muted. I'm so sorry. Wendigo.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Wendigo.
When you start telling me like stuff about your childhood or adolescence, or maybe even the last few years, this stuff about seeing things, it creeps me out the way that Wendigoon. I want to get his name right because I do like him. I watch his videos all the time. It's just
I think it's like Wendigo, but Wendigoon.
Yeah, but well, it's because there's a mythical monster called a Wendigo.
Wendigo.
Is it Wendigo?
Yeah, Skinwalker kind of eats people.
Exactly.
Yeah, it pretends to be people, and that's like and
that's one of those monsters. That's one of those monsters that like something that takes the form of humans. Those are the ones that like if you're whatever you want to call it, open-minded or goofy or silly enough or whatever to believe in crazy stuff. That's one of the ones that can make sense to like sneak by. Like, no, you don't understand. Of course, we don't know they exist. They take the form of what we see every day. People.
It looks like a normal guy just walking down the street or maybe minding his own business in the woods. You don't know.
It's like The Thing, which is the greatest horror movie ever.
Or maybe like reptilians, taking the form of humans, the whole overlord
the
thing.
The reptilian part,
like they live.
It doesn't make sense because like the like reptilian conspiracy thing, it says they're underground. They're cold-blooded. They'd be way too hot.
It'd be warm down there.
It'd be warm.
They need that to stay warm. They need that to live.
They'd live on geothermals, and to live above ground, they want to. They've taken positions of power.
No, it's not like basking in the sun hot down there. It's unbelievably hot.
It depends how deep you go, Taylor. Okay, have you been to the mines of Korgoroth? I think
no. I'm making this up as I go along.
Have you seen the steam pools of the deep Gogala?
Yeah, if I hadn't, I wouldn't have made
where the reptile men are numbered in the millions and the reptile women do whatever you want.
Do you think they have tits?
You ever seen one of those You ever seen one of those alligator cloacas, that little slit? It's like humans could learn a few things about vaginas from alligators.
Oh god.
Right?
And dolphins.
Yeah.
Oh god.
And dolphins. Like I saw a Impractical Jokers bit where like he's like, you ever wonder what dolphin puss looks like? He has to say that to a pretty woman, and she literally goes, "I think it's just kind of circular." Like she just rolls with it, and it's just like, damn.
Love it.
Dude, every once in a while they run up against a cool person who's
No,
just
but-
as down to be silly.
Yeah, but back to the thing. I worry that maybe like you're hallucinating, right? Do you think you're hallucinating?
That's the most logical thing, right?
And I'm
the
not
most
trying to be shitty. I'm not trying to be shitty about this, or like we've talked about this when you weren't here, and I don't want you to think that like I'm doing that behind your back or anything like that.
Kyle's fascinated by this whole thing.
Okay,
I
don't get offended easily, so it's no worries.
Yeah, don't think that I'm like behind your back, like laughing it up about.
No.
No, it's ridiculous. I tell these stories here because
the situation is just ridiculous, and it's interesting to me, like genuinely.
Yeah. Last time you were on, Kyle was like, "Guys, we should have stayed on the paranormal shit the whole 4 hours. I'm fascinated."
Yeah. I could go on about that forever because so much like weird shit happened. But the short version is Woody's gone. I feel like he just didn't want to hear this shit, and he probably
no. He's I think he's doing some home improvement stuff.
He's pooping or getting a snack.
Yeah.
The reality is that a lot of this happened at a very not so great time in my life. My home life was broken. I was moving a lot. I was stressed out a lot. I mean, I was the kind of kid that would have to stay up late at night and keep the shoes by the bed because you might have to bounce like that. And it's very realistic to say that the stress of that does not do good things to the psyche of children.
For sure.
So as I move into adulthood, these things happen far less frequently. They do still happen. So I think, well, did this shit really happen? Which your subreddit tore me a whole new asshole about this, about supposedly lying or whatever.
Oh.
But the practical version is I have to think, well, it only happened experientially in here, most likely, because I don't live my life making decisions based on what I think shadow people or demons or whatever the fuck are going to do. I'm a very logical, scientific person.
That's what I appreciate about what you're saying, because you're not coming here and you're like Dan Aykroyd, for example, a guy that I really am a huge fan of since I was a kid. I think he's a brilliantly funny man from SNL and Ghostbusters and all the writing he's done. But he's a whack job when you hear him speak. And when he talks about aliens or secret societies, and he's got that really, really quick Chicago accent, and he's explaining it to you, and you're just like, Crystal Skull vodka. And then he starts talking about aliens, and you're just like, okay, you're a whack.
Dan Aykroyd is into aliens and
Yeah, his whole family used to be psychic mediums. And stuff.
Dan Aykroyd,
weirdos.
Dan Aykroyd is incredibly wacky. You know his character in Ghostbusters, how he's like a paranormal psychologist.
Yeah, but I thought that was just him.
Murray's character. No,
they were all kind of paranormal.
A lot of the wackadoo writing is him going to Ivan Reitman, who just passed away, and being like, "Oh, we gotta have some stuff about the occult in here." Like they wrote that fucking movie, and he has always been wacky like that with the occult, conspiracies, aliens. And he believes stringently in it. He has that Crystal Skull vodka company. And
wait, that's his company?
Yes.
Yeah. He makes a lot of money selling that
has got like so many people know that like you walk through like your grocery store and go through the alcohol aisle, and like so much of it is just the coolness of the designs that gets you, where you're like, okay, well, this one looks like a wine bottle and it's $7.99. This one looks cool as shit. It's got a skull and it's $11.99. I'm gonna always go skull. It's cooler.
That is one of the best gimmicks ever.
I've never had that.
It's not great vodka, but it's not awful vodka, and you get a skull out of it. It's cool. Like you can fill it up with sand of different colors, like doing those little sand art things. You can do a lot of stuff with it. I saw someone take this glow in the dark sand that you can and they filled it up with that, and then the whole skull would just glow under black light. I don't know. They're neat little props to like throw on a desk or something like that too.
I think,
but what I was getting at, I'm sorry, I don't want to get away from the point.
No, go for it.
That's a wacky guy who I think is just a loon. I don't think that of you at all.
So I appreciate that. A lot of people do.
But when you casually talk about this stuff, it can lend itself there. But what I see from you is not someone who's trying to convince me that there are paranormal things happening. It's someone who's telling me about what you're talking about, your mental illness essentially, and how like traumatic events have triggered this more at certain points in your life, and how you basically see things that aren't there, and I don't know how you cope with that, because if I thought like right now I've got my monitors in front of me, some lighting and shit, but like across that room there's a door over there. If I ever looked up, and I'm alone at my house right now, if I ever looked up and I saw something look at me through there, it would upset me so much that I don't think I could live alone anymore. I talked about this with someone like yesterday because someone asked me who was coming on, and we had a very similar discussion to what we're having right now. But I told him like I couldn't even live alone anymore. I don't think, and I don't think like getting a full-time like live-in girlfriend would do the trick. I think I'd have to move back in with my father to feel safe again. If there were dark men in my house, like that sounds silly.
Well, no, that's
if there's static man or shadow,
if there's dark
reasonable.
shadow people or something like, and something I'm interested in with what Drifter said is,
I'd be so scared.
When you described experiencing it as a kid, you talk about like seeing a figure for extended periods of time. When you described it just now as an adult, you were like a fleeting image in the corner. Like, is that how it tends to be now as an adult? It's more of a fleeting, like it could be a shadow and it's just your childhood reminding you like, oh, that could be that.
Yeah, something like that. As an adult, very fleeting. I don't hallucinate things very infrequently. 3-4 times a year tops if it's busy. Audio is a little more frequent, but it's usually just very, very small things. It's not whispering voices and crazy shit like that. But I think the improvement came to an improvement to my psyche when I left the very toxic environment. But that doesn't change the memories of these things. And as a kid, I was rationally, like you, very scared. I wouldn't stay certain places. I wouldn't do certain things alone. I wouldn't go places. I wouldn't touch things. And they take me to child psychologists and I would tell them about these things. None of them were impressed. I got a variety of medications, which kids probably shouldn't have.
Agreed.
But at the end of the day, even though I'm very cognizantly aware that there's like a 99% chance that everything I see exists only up here, it doesn't change the reality of the memories for me. Like, so Kyle, or Taylor, you're very reasonable people. If a very unreasonable thing happened, a very spooky shadow person or ghost just peeked around the corner and said, fuck you, Kyle, and then just disappeared and you saw it for real, totally for real. You couldn't unremember it. You couldn't remember it like any other different way.
It would be in your mind forever.
So let me ask you this. I like where you've led me here. The memories that you have of these encounters, let's call them, are they just as grounded? Do they feel just as real as like your 15th birthday party or something like that?
100%. That's why when I first started my YouTube channel, I can see you laugh already. I endeavored to tell these stories, and I told almost all of them in about a 10 or 15 part series, so that as I get older and my memory changes and you recall and you retell and things change, so that at least the best memory I had available at the time existed as a sort of log. But I do remember them as real. Matter of fact, I had something happen when I was 15. It was a bunch of weird noises that made me leave my house. I didn't really like it. I didn't know how to deal with it. So I just fucking left and went to a friend's house. And I had a very awkward conversation telling my friend that, I want to spend the night here because something is following me around the house and making noises. Like, I don't expect you to believe that. Just humor me.
Oh, not only would I believe it, but I would be like, Mom, he's back. You promised you'd do something. like, Mom, you said you'd call the police this time. He keeps coming back. You know he's haunted, right? I saw it too. They say if he sleeps at your house, it kills you in 7 days. There's no way.
Don't watch any VHS he brought with him.
You're being drug away by your mom. You're like, it's Jurassic Park.
That's very interesting. Like,
no. God,
so
it's weird.
So you said that the visual hallucinations as a kid, very intense, as an adult, fleeting, and it's more almost maybe an anomaly in the corner of your eye that triggers an internal memory of a similar shaped thing. Is auditory the same thing where when you were a kid, it was full sentences, full voices, and now it's more of just kind of something curious that you don't think exists?
Well, weirdly, I had no voices as a kid. Nothing really talked so much. Every now and then you would get thoughts that weren't yours. So to speak, more of an idea and less of a words, a voice babbling.
Time out again.
Okay.
So up until now, again, I don't know much, but up until now, it seems like you've described a lot of things that seemed like they were external. You experienced them as external events, but now you described something that you experienced as an internal event, something where you had a feeling or a thought that didn't feel like it was yours, which is maybe a sister mental illness, but I don't think coincides with the same mental illness. I wish next time you come on, we're going to have a doctor here.
Okay. Yeah, you can bring a doctor. I'm sure I'll give them all sorts. I'm keeping doctors busy right now, as a matter of fact.
And I'm glad that you're open to it, and you realize that I'm not trying to like make light of this. That I'm genuinely like interested.
If
I'm
we
glad,
can't
and I'm
find a
telling
doctor,
these stories because they're interesting. I think it is interesting content.
It's very interesting content.